Mark, is it better if we're muted until we speak?
Did we lose him?
Chuck was in the room with us a minute ago.
Yeah, he was.
I wonder, Chuck, if you can hear us, you got to turn your camera and mic back on. They turn it off when they transfer you to the room. There he is.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I could hear everything. I was like, wow, okay, I got it easy today.
What happened to Mark?
Is somebody going to ask us questions, or how will we? Mark's going to ask questions.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Miranda, you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. It looks like Mark's having a little technical difficulty with his camera. So we're just working to get Mark up on the stage. So just bear with us for a minute.
Why don't we get started with some introductions? Hi, I'm Sandra Hamame, and I'm a placeholder for Mark for right now while he works on getting his camera set up. So we're really excited to have you all here join us today. So thank you so very much. If we could just start with introductions, we can start with Jason. If you can go ahead and kick us off, please. Thanks. Can you hear us?
I can't hear Jason.
Me either.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank God. Okay, excellent. So, hi, I'll start over. My name is Jason Kenny. I'm a deputy director at the Department of General Services. I'm in that position. I'm the chief real estate officer for California. Our department is responsible for the majority of state real estate transactions. So public works construction, purchasing of property, leasing, appraisals, environmental reviews. If a state department needs to do something real estate-esque, it falls through my shop. We're also an authority having jurisdiction and the state inspector of record. There are a few things we don't do. I like to say we don't do roads, prisons, and dams, but pretty much everything else that the state does, we accomplish on behalf of the departments. Should we popcorn it to Blake, maybe?
Sure. Good idea, Jason. We'll grab the bull by the horns. I'm Blake Consul. I'm the Executive Director for the Fresno Regional Workforce Development Board. And we act as a fiscal agent on the SB1 funds that come into the Valley. So we work in partnership with the 4 building trades councils that are found there. And I'm happy that I'm joined today by Chuck Riojas.
Thank you, Blake. I assume that's my segue into this. Yeah, Chuck Riojas, a 34-year member of the IBEW. I'm an electrician by trade. I've been running the Building Trades Council on my 8th year. We'll talk a little bit later on about the unique relationship that the Fresno Regional Workforce has with the building trades and how productive it's been.
Is that everyone?
I think we were. Go ahead, Juanita. I'll go to you.
Okay. My name's Juanita Douglas. I am the construction instructor for Rising Sun Center for Opportunity, and Rising Sun Center for Opportunity is a free 10-week job program, readiness program that prepares participants for apprenticeships and employment in the building trade unions. To give a little background about me, I worked 17 years as a commercial carpenter and another 15 as a land surveyor. And I've been teaching and training at Rising Sun now for a little over 2.5 years. Veronica?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Veronica Soto, and I'm the Senior Advisor for Workforce Development for the Los Angeles World Airport LAX program. We have an 8-week pre-apprenticeship training program, or as others like to call it, apprenticeship readiness program, where we prepare candidates for a great career in construction through union apprenticeship. I'm very pleased to be here. I have about 20 years experience working on large capital building programs, and I can't tell you how exciting it is to see local residents working on building public agency projects that make not just the city proud and the county proud, but all of them. They're truly invested in our communities, building day in and day out. So I'm so pleased to be here today with all of you.
That's everybody, Mark.
Okay, great. Guys, sorry about that. I have absolutely no idea what happened, but I didn't have the option to turn on my mic and my camera. But I'm here. Crisis averted. So I'll kick it off because I think we're a little bit behind. So I wanted to start by talking about women in the trades, because women have historically been underrepresented in the building trades, and though the numbers are still dismally low in California, they're improving thanks to the work of a lot of community-based organizations who have made that part of their mission. Juanita, starting with you, the Rising Sun Center for Opportunity, where you work, has an exemplary record in doing this. Could you tell us how Rising Sun recruits, prepares, and supports women looking to get into the building trades?
First, because of the 30 plus years that I spent once I started teaching, Rising Sun was already one of the few programs that did an all women's cohorts. So since I've been there, I've taught 2. And also our goal is to make sure that 50% of every class that we teach is women. And so far we have succeeded with that, except for maybe 1 cohort. But what we do is we visit the shelters, we visit the community centers. With our application process, we encourage women to come in. And once they're there, because of my experience in the field, I can get them physically and mentally ready to survive out there. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy for anybody. It's very, very hard work, but it's very rewarding work in the end. So we have mental health counselors, we have drug counselors, and I can direct and I do all the hands-on and explain to the women that they really can do this job. I mean, I worked 30 plus years. I was a single mother. I raised my son. He's went to UCSB. He's a computer engineer. He's now working full time, and he doesn't have any loans, student loans that he has to pay back. So that's our goal. So wherever we can find, I mean, me and my partner Marlon, we put posters up in the parks just so we can bring in whoever we need to speak to.
Thank you so much, Juanita. And while I have you, I wanted to ask you something else. It also has to do with equity. And that is the way that Rising Sun has worked with Oakland Housing Authority around Section 8 housing eligibility for a lot of its participants. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Sure. We actually have an MOU with the Oakland Housing Authorities. And what happens is they send us referrals for the participants to take our classes. And because we give a small stipend, and also once they go to work, it doesn't affect their housing. It's reviewed each time. And when their salary go up, then maybe when their income go up, then maybe their rent will go up, but they're not throwing out the housing because their income is increasing. And while they're in our program, Oakland Housing brings in gift cards, gas cards. And at the end, once they graduate, then they also purchase all of their tools at the end of the graduation. And we still work with these participants through Oakland Housing for another year after they graduate from our program.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that, Juanita. And to follow up on that, and speaking of populations that often face barriers to employment, I'd like to move over to you, Veronica, because Hire LAX has done a lot to collaborate with community-based organizations that meet the needs of formerly incarcerated. Could you tell us what the challenges are in dealing with a population like that, and the things that your organization does to address them?
Absolutely. Let me just start off by saying that April is Second Chance Month. But for the Hire LAX program, for us, this is a year-long commitment. Currently, I would say about 40% of our graduates are individuals who are returning citizens. And it was a priority right from the beginning that if we were going to have a program that provides the community, everyone in the community, without excluding anyone in the community, an opportunity to be able to begin a quality career in construction, we knew that we had to go ahead and create an infrastructure that would not only be able to help us identify this population of individuals, but also to have the supportive services to be able to address any type of employment barrier that they may have right at the beginning during training. And so we partnered with the City of Los Angeles WorkSource system, as well as the County of Los Angeles American Job Centers. And they are an integral part of our partnership, of our program. And without them, we would not be able to have the resources necessary to address the issues. And everything from, right now with COVID, everything has been heightened. So while in the past we might have been dealing with 2 or 3 employment barriers, now we're also dealing with housing insecurity, food insecurity, transportation is heightened as well. A lot of individuals in the community did not have access to testing and readily available, as well as the vaccine. Now, by this collective effort, we're making sure that everyone in the community has access to those resources, but most importantly, that we're addressing those issues that will create stability in their life. No one can focus on training unless they are stable. So we got to make sure that we have those things in place. And through again, our network of community-based organizations, our in-house case management team, I cannot say enough about our case managers who work with every individual to determine what is going on, what are their needs in a very confidential way, but one that treats everyone with dignity and respect. Life skills training, which is embedded in the Hire LAX program. We have a great nonprofit, Second Call, that comes in every week. Counseling. But again, it serves everyone. When you look at the populations that we have in Los Angeles, specifically those who are returning citizens, we're dealing with a lot of hurt. We're dealing with a lot of emotional pain, psychological challenges, And through life skills training, we're able to provide the tools necessary for them to take an inventory of their lives, an inventory of their feelings, so they can go ahead and target those feelings in a way that allows them to move forward. So I'm just saying that for this population of individuals, we welcome them. It makes up 40% of our graduates, 80% placement success rate. So I can tell you that once they get in the program and they're committed, they're going to stay in, they're going to work hard, and they always come back and bring us additional members of the community that we can consider for program enrollment. So we're very pleased. And again, this is, second chance month, but let's just make it a second chance month every day for year round. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, and very, very well said. And just to add another question to that, because that 80% placement rate it's incredible. Like it's amazing. And we know, as you said, Hire LAX is part of a project labor agreement, and we'll get into what a project labor agreement is in a moment. But this involves a variety of signatory contractors and employers who are, I imagine, looking for very particular things in their workers, very particular skills. How is this incorporated into the training that Hire LAX provides so that those contractors get what they're looking for?
Well, first, obviously we have in Los Angeles World Airports, we have the longest standing PLA. Our PLA was, enacted in 1999. And within that PLA, for local hire, for local participation, for the participation of women, non-discrimination. And so we have taken that to heart. And our contractors, as they sign on to our projects and to our labor agreement, they have also embraced those principles, those commitments, but most importantly, those requirements. Not only do we have a PLA, but all of this information and all of these requirements are also embedded in our construction contracts. So the contractors know that when they come to do work at LAX, that they are going to work with us, the PLA administration team on behalf of LAWA, to go ahead and help them meet their manpower needs. We have a process by which they can go ahead and request dispatched workers from all the unions so that they have the skilled manpower. I hate the word manpower. We've got to come up with a new word, because
people power,
people power, just skilled workers, skilled core workers. We need to go ahead and give them access to the skilled labor that's necessary for them to be able to build our projects on time and within budget. But again, for success, it's not just building our projects on time and within budget. Our success is also ensuring that our projects are built by local labor. And again, this would not be possible without the great partnership with what we have with the LA Orange County. The fact that they embrace the Hire LAX program, the fact that we have the MC3 curriculum, which establishes a great baseline for training that really exposes community members to the career in construction through apprenticeship. And so all of those factors, the PLA, having an apprenticeship readiness training program, having contractors that are committed, but most importantly also at LAWA, making sure that we deliver these projects, again, on time, on budget, with local labor participation.
Thank you, Veronica. So HRCC, High Road Construction Careers, it's a demand side strategy. So it doesn't train for jobs that don't exist, but central to the existence of those good jobs and central to demand are project labor agreements, like the one that Hire LAX is a part of, and community workforce agreements. These two terms are sometimes used interchangeably, sometimes they're not. But Chuck, lucky enough, we have a building trades leader here who can explain for us what a PLA is, first of all, but also how a PLA can create demand for apprentices, and particularly those from target or priority populations.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I mean, I was listening to Veronica, and she actually said and defined what a PLA is. And so it basically is an agreement on a project, be it an individual project, a scope of projects, or yearly, like I assume LAX has, 99, I think she said, that It basically defines the parameters of a job. And the reason that they are so popular is because of the targeted worker language or the local hire language as well. And it allows us the opportunity to negotiate with the entity that's purchasing the facility or the contractors that are going to work on the facility, an opportunity to hire local or the targeted workers, which is why we're all here. Want to elevate the community and give everybody the same opportunities to enter the middle class through apprenticeship and viable apprenticeship. One of the things that goes without saying, and I'm sure it happens at LAX and everybody who's here, is joint labor management apprenticeship. That's very, very important that we delineate between unilateral apprenticeships and JATCs, which are joint apprenticeships. And so joint basically has labor and management at the table, and the others just don't. And so we find that the higher graduation rates, a higher road training is all done within joint labor management apprenticeship programs. And so there's strong language or a strong commitment in project labor agreements to local hire, targeted workers, and things of that nature. I would say without reservation, 90% of a PLA is boilerplate. They're the same down the state, if not the nation. So negotiate these things, we define it pretty much to the region or to the area, where LAX might be a little bit different than Oakland would be. In the Central Valley, definitely different. We have different political considerations and different poverty rates that we target when it comes to the workforce preparedness training programs that we run through the workforce. And so basically what we do is when you ask about the apprenticeship piece, PLAs don't drive the apprenticeship numbers. State law, labor code says 1 out of every 5 hours will be an apprentice. That's basically the floor. So 1 out of every 5 people on the job will be an apprentice. That's a protected class by state law. So what we do with project labor agreements is with those brand new apprenticeship opportunities, we earmark a certain percentage, usually 30% of the new hires that come out of these workforce preparedness programs. And so that's what really gives them move into a viable apprenticeship.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chuck. Moving over to you, Blake. It's unique for a workforce board to work so closely with a building trades council. Can you explain how that came to be and the effect that has had on workforce development in your region?
Sure. So 2 things really spurred our partnership with Fresno Madera Kings Tulare Building Trades Council. One was a number of years ago, we were heavily invested in training for Pacific Gas and Electric. And we had a particular cohort going that we were funding where we were training recently returned veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. And midpoint in the training, there was a change in corporate policy at PG&E about where people could be hired from. And they noticed us that they were not going to be able to hire any of our trainees. So not a good idea to try to wrestle with a 1,000-pound gorilla. So I was calling everybody I knew. I called Chuck, and Chuck said, a lot of the training that we were doing for utility line workers, especially regarding tools, is kind of similar to multi-craft. So we morphed that veterans cohort that had started for PG&E into a multi-craft in partnership with Fresno Madera Kings Tulare Building Trades. And it was very, very successful. In fact, at a recent event, we had 2 of those veterans who are now journeymen speak to the trainees. So that showed that it could be done. The other thing too is we undertook a survey of public infrastructure spending in the Valley from 2010 through 2020. We're actually awaiting the results of a new survey, by the way. But to just value approved public infrastructure construction, and the survey came up with, independent of high-speed rail, $26 billion worth of approved public infrastructure construction in the Valley. And we have a hidden industry sector in the part of the state that has some of the highest unemployment rates. And why aren't we focused on this? And that was really the lure, that there's this opportunity that nobody was really thinking about. And so, we've been doing this now for 11 years. We're recruiting for our 33rd cohort. But the partnership with labor has been instrumental in our being able to provide qualified human capital, for those apprentice pools to apply. And it's grown from just being a partnership with Chuck to now a partnership with all 4 building trades councils that are in the valley, and then kind of go up into the mother lode, Sonora area. So it's absolutely the best program that we run.
And Blake, just because we're somehow ahead of time, could you tell me about the Clean Slate program?
Sure. So some of the people, a good number of the people who come to us, they have various barriers to employment. We want them to be not just a possibility of success, but a probability of success. And so we had 3 areas where people were running into problems. 1, a lot of them had suspended driver's licenses. 2, they had child support payments that were in arrears. And 3, they had felony records. So in partnership with our local public defender's office through something called Clean Slate, we pay for individuals to see an attorney, and we're able to get nonviolent felonies expunged. We're able to get child support payments amortized over multiple paychecks. And third, the driver's license was the most interesting thing. If you had asked me, why do people have a driver's license suspended? I would have said for something like a DUI in most cases. In actuality, it's poor people who can't afford to pay tickets. So the state in their wisdom says, let's take away their driver's license so then they really can't work and pay the tickets. So there again, too, we're not getting the amounts removed, but we are getting repayment of those fines amortized over multiple pay periods. So, otherwise some of these women and men, their first couple paychecks would be completely, it's like a tax lien, you got to pay it. The government wants its pound of flesh. So, but it's been very, very popular, and it's something that we initially did just in our area. And now through SB1, we're expanding that program into across the valley.
Right. And you said, what has the buy-in or the interest been like from those other building trades councils? And Chuck, you can come in from your perspective on this one, but in trying to replicate this model throughout the value, the success of this model throughout the value, is it, how difficult or easy is it to get the interest of these other building trades council leaders and workforce development board leaders in these other areas outside of Fresno?
Well, I'll just throw in some facts, and that is that the northern area, the 2 building trades councils up there, one in San Joaquin and the other in Stanislaus Merced, they have hired a coordinator for that under the grant for that area, and they're actually recruiting for their first cohort right now. In the south, in Kern, they're interviewing for the coordinator, and once the coordinator is hired, we'll be recruiting for the first cohort that'll probably be September, October timeframe down in Kern. Here in the middle of the valley, the Fresno WIB, we employ the coordinator, and we have on our nickel for like the last 8 years. So, but at that level, it's expanding. But Chuck, you could talk about the challenge about getting affiliates to participate, and you know way more about that than I do.
Yeah, and that's the unique thing about the partnership between Blake and I is we come at it from both angles, and where Blake and the WIB has an expertise for those wraparound services, it fits perfectly to what we do, and it allows us in the building trades just to teach the MC3 and to focus on what it is we do and to get them prepared for apprenticeship opportunities. Now, when you have North and South, the desire is there. They want to get involved. But it's an educational process. Like anything else, it's something new to the programs. Building trades notoriously doesn't embrace new programs, especially in the Central Valley. But it has been it's been great, really, working North and South, because it actually expands my opportunities or my experiences working in different diverse areas. But WIBs are different in every locality. building trades affiliates are different in every locality, and so it's just a matter of building those relationships and those tie-ins. In our area, we have the good fortune of having all the affiliates participating and cooperating. Other areas, north and south, may not have because of personalities, because of politics, because of everything else. That's just the long and the short of it. I am fortunate where Blake and his WIB is a JP Joint Powers Authority. They're not a county agency, and so it's I want to say it's easier to work within that. And so what it's taught me is not every county has the assets that I have to work with, and so we're thinking outside of the box, and we're educating, and we're moving the needle. Some of it's a little difficult, some of it is easier, but we'll get there. Because of SB1, I think Blake can correct me. I think we have 8-9 counties that we're responsible for, and so we're building those relationships, and I look forward to those first cohorts, north and south.
That's awesome, and I imagine the success of the program is a great advertisement for it in those other areas. But earlier we spoke about how HRCC is a demand side strategy, and another practice that plays a big role in that is the power of public procurement. There aren't enough good jobs at the moment, haven't been for a while. But there are things that state and public agencies can do to make it so there are more good jobs, and that those good jobs go to people who really need them the most. And the Department of General Services did just that in signing a community workforce agreement right here in leafy Sacramento. So we have Jason Kenny here to talk about that. Jason, could you tell us what the workforce agreement that you're involved in, what it entails, and why DGS got into it, why they opted to pursue that?
Yeah, sure. So in starting in 2016, we embarked on a pretty massive new building and renovation program in the area. I think since 2016, every year I've asked for about $1 billion from the legislature, and they've graciously given it to us. This current year is the least amount of money we asked for, and it's about $770 million, to give you a sense for scale. And so we've been constructing new buildings, renovating buildings, and kind of the point, I think, of your question is obviously it's one thing to have successful apprenticeship programs, and it's one thing to have a pipeline, but you kind of need, on the other end, people to plug into on jobs. Otherwise, the apprenticeship programs are really meaningless. And so we absolutely wanted to make sure that we were contributing, I think, to the ultimate labor pipeline, and obviously not just in the city, but that has ripple effects to the other markets in the adjacent areas. The halls aren't limited just to the area. And we also, as we were doing this, though, the reason why the CWA came in, so we're signing project-specific PLA agreements on each of these projects in this program. The community workforce was a way for both Brown and Newsom administration to focus on equity in the context of those PLAs. Now, our CWA is a little different. Most CWAs tend to be local hire provisions. They tend to be targeted zip codes. Our approach was a different proxy measures because it's state dollars as opposed to, say, Fresno investing in their own city infrastructure with local tax dollars. This is coming from money from across the state. Taxpayer in Redding, a taxpayer in San Diego is all that money is being rolled into these projects. And so between the focus on equity and the fact that we're not necessarily spending local dollars, we focused on categories of people, targeted worker categories, as opposed to zip codes. So women, women interested in building trades, veterans, persons having a criminal record or otherwise involved in the criminal justice system, persons receiving public assistance, and people emancipated from the foster care system were the 5 targeted workforce categories that we put in place. And this, again, I think it not only helps us make sure that there is that long-term labor pipeline by virtue of our projects, but also that we're ensuring a more well-rounded workforce and really focusing on getting everybody into the trades, as opposed to the more traditional folks that some of the programs can accidentally focus on. And
Jason, lastly, because I'm aware of who may be listening, could you speak of the lessons like learned up to now in being involved in that CWA, like things you would advise other state agencies to consider when it comes to getting involved in something like this?
Yeah. I mean, I think, so far in each of the projects we've done this on, we've met not only obviously the legally required apprentice standards, but also the contractually required targeted worker percentages for the project. So I think we've done it successfully. That isn't to say it's necessarily easy. Communication is absolutely critical. Whichever government entity is embarking on this, the halls, the trades, the contractor. I mean, you really have to be clear on kind of what the expectations are and what the actual process is going to be. I think as everybody on this call knows, the natural dispatch from the halls is seniority based, and so having a CWA sort of disrupts that normal model to a certain extent. And so really being clear on what our goals are, what we need, when we need them, how this is going to work, I think was critical. We partnered with SETA, which is the Sacramento Employment and Training Agency. They have been fantastic in helping bridge some of those communication gaps and make sure the day-to-day stuff is happening appropriately. And especially for us, using these targeted worker categories, it has proven to be more difficult on the tracking end. It's relatively simpler to show proof of residence in a targeted zip code, for example, than it is to show that you were once emancipated from the foster care system. And so, some of our categories, while I think they're the right categories and they definitely have brought more folks into the trades than probably would have otherwise, we nonetheless have found ourselves with the administrative headache of having to sort of validate those folks' categories and make sure that they're plugged in appropriately. And also, too, one of the things that we did make sure happened early on was we didn't want any stigma attached. Going back to Veronica's comment about second chances, there are some of these categories that some folks don't feel comfortable necessarily alerting the hiring entities to, the subcontractors who are hiring them. And so we set up a system where it was essentially blind. When the subcontractor requested somebody from the halls and they fall into one of the categories, SETA would validate the category. They would send the person and their information to the general contractor for aggregate purposes and reporting purposes, but the subcontractor would only know that the person they just picked up meets one of the categories and they're good. That way there wasn't any ickiness or perceived issue between the direct employer and the person from the hall. And so I think just kind of being thoughtful about that process and removing barriers to self-disclosure was a really important part of the process. Again, it takes time, it takes management, it takes oversight. We have to be very proactive in messaging the PLA and CWA to contractors as we're going through the procurement process. We have to be very active in reminding them that this is not just a box to be checked, that we are going to be actively monitoring it, just like we monitor our small business and disabled veteran business enterprise state goals, and that it's a scored element. Their historic practice of PLAs and CWAs, and that in the future, if they were to shrug it off on Project X, if they're going after Project Y, there'd be consequences for that. And so I think that communication, everybody, and again, just sort of being mindful of the process and how labor flows from the subcontractor making the request all the way to the person on the job site is critical to making sure these things are implemented appropriately.
Thanks so much, Jason. That was amazing timing because I just got a time check from Miranda. Miranda, do we have any questions in the chat for the panelists? We have about 5 minutes left. We could probably cover one or two of them. I see one. Oh, here she comes.
So our first question that has multiple upvotes is, how do your city or organizations address the enforcement of those local higher goals of the PLA? How do you get GCs to comply without having to be punitive?
Veronica, do you want to take that one? I know you were involved in work like that in LA.
Great question. I think that our approach has always been that we need to be able to communicate that these programs are an asset. There is such a demand for skilled labor right now that it is imperative that we identify individuals who are interested in such a career. And if we get them through an apprenticeship readiness training program, then we've done what you essentially could be like a test. It's a pre-test of whether this is someone who is willing to do what it takes. When they go through training, they're not paid. So for 8 weeks, for 7 hours a day, they are coming to training. And so basically, we're evaluating that person's intent of being at work on time, to be able to follow directions, to be safe. And so if anything, it's an incentive. What we are providing is an incentive for general contractors and their subs to be able to identify individuals who do want to make this a lifelong career. And so, obviously there's always penalties, but for the most part, we try to make our contractors understand that this is an asset. There's a return on investment on this. We're doing their job for them. Most subcontractors, small contractors, they'll tell someone on their team, hey, do you have a cousin that, is ready or can come and work? We're looking for manpower. And what happens? They don't know anything about that cousin. But when they go through one of our programs, and I'm not just saying hire LAX, but our other MC3 programs, people have made an investment. We know something, and we're getting them through the process so they understand what that is. And so I really think that we're working from a standpoint of incentivizing, that this just makes good business sense. We are helping their bottom line, but most importantly, we're meeting their demand for skilled labor.
So much, Veronica. Miranda, is there any other questions?
Yeah, we have another question here from Sarah. Is if there is an all-women school or all-woman cohort, how do you deal with discrimination?
Juanita, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I'd love to. Number one, I've never ran into the problem. It's never been an issue. And we run 3 cohorts a year. Only one is all women. And there is a demand now for women to start working the trade. So I don't know. I have not had the issue of it being a problem. The other 2 cohorts that I run is totally co-ed. So percentage-wise, it's just never come up. It's never became an issue. And I really don't expect it to become an issue. I mean, right now, the construction trades is only 3 to 4% female. So it's better for all of us if we're able to get women into the trade. And hopefully I never have to deal with that problem.
Hopefully, yeah. Thank you so much, Juanita. And with that, we are at time. It is 10:14. So this Remo platform does me head in sometimes, but I can give you guidance on how to return to the main session lobby. I saw some people commenting in the chat about it. So select the main session button on the right-hand side of your screen. And yeah, once you're in the main session lobby, you just double click on a table and it will take you there. You can zip around from place to place to place, turn your camera on, your mic on, and then you can speak with people. So yeah, hope that works. And I want to thank all of our panelists again for coming today and apologize for the technical difficulties at the start. It's weird how that happens when you practice for it not to happen so many times, but hey, this is hopefully the last time we'll have to do something like this online. We'll all be vaccinated and together in some Sheraton or something like that. So yeah, thank you everybody, and enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you.